Well, the two best words in sports, Game 7, although it maybe doesn't feel quite as good if you're a Warrior fan because the Warriors are in danger of a historic collapse in this series. Welcome into Warriors Live on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you for a special 1-hour edition of Warriors Live. We're presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. This game tips off Warriors versus Rockets from Houston. Game 7. Winner moves on to the second round in the Western Conference playoff to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are sitting at home. And I would imagine they're probably rooting for the Warriors because if the Warriors win this series, the T-Wolves as the 6th seed will get home court advantage in the second round. If Houston completes the comeback, Houston will host Minnesota. Wherever that game takes place, it will begin on Tuesday. So Warriors or Rockets, whoever wins today, they only get 1 day off. The Warriors in Houston, when they packed their bags after the Game 6 loss, they packed for a week because they're planning on winning tonight, then flying directly to Minnesota for Game 1 on Tuesday, Game 2 on Thursday, and then flying back home for Game 3, which would be on Saturday at Chase Center. But again, first things first, the Warriors have to win today. They were up 3-1. Houston dominates in Game 5 in Houston. And then they controlled the fourth quarter in Game 6 back here at Chase Center a couple of days ago, and now they're hoping to close out the Warriors on their home court in a Game 7. Again, welcome into Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you for a full hour instead of just 30 minutes. I got you covered until 5 o'clock. Then Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert live from Houston. They'll take over coming up at 5 before tip-off at 5:30. And then win or lose, I've got you on Warriors wrap-up as well when this game ends. Win or lose, and we hopefully it's more of a celebratory Warriors wrap-up than the last couple of games have been. But win or lose, I'll be here for you post-game on 95.7 The Game. All right, again, this is Warriors Live presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. If you want to join the conversation here on Warriors Live, feel free to do so on our Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line at 888-957-9570. And I've also got our YouTube chat up as always, youtube.com/957 The Game, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. I see Mike, I see Teb, I see Alan, I see Jimbo, I see Notes, I see Arnell, I see San Jose Jazz fan, I see a number of others. Keep it coming here on Warriors Live on 95.7 The Game. Okay, so this series so far, just a quick recap. Warriors, after their play-in win over Memphis, they go to Houston for Game 1. 2 weeks ago now, on Sunday, they win that game in Houston, 95-85. It was a defensive battle. Steph scored 31. Jimmy Butler scored 25. Houston could not hit the broadside of a barn. Warriors win Game 1. Warriors don't necessarily punt on Game 2, but they really struggled out of the gate early on. Then Jimmy Butler gets hurt towards the tail end of the first quarter, took a hard fall. There was that awkward collision between Amen Thompson, who was kind of tangled up with Draymond Green, and then also with Steven Adams, going for an offensive rebound, ended up colliding with the legs of Jimmy Butler as he elevated for a rebound, took out his legs. Butler falls on his backside, does not play the rest of that game. As a result, the Warriors lose that one by 15 points. Series tied up at a game apiece. Warriors without Jimmy Butler in Game 3. They lean on Steph. Steph scores 36 points, has 7 rebounds, has 9 assists. Buddy Hield played well. GP2 scored 9 in a row in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors won that game by 11 points despite not having Jimmy Butler to take a 2-1 series lead. Then in Game 4 on Monday, 6 days ago, feels like forever ago, but it was just 6 days ago, Jimmy Butler returns. The Warriors make a change to the starting lineup with Buddy Hield in for Moses Moody. Buddy plays good again. Şengün dominates, but it was not enough as Jimmy Butler scores 14 points in the fourth quarter to will the Warriors to a win, 109-106. And at that point, they take a 3-1 series lead, headed back to Houston for Game 5, where Houston absolutely dominates. They win 131-116, but it was not that close. Warriors were down 16 after 1. halftime, down 27 at halftime, trailed by as many as 31. They waved the white flag midway through the third quarter. The bench makes a run, but it never got within double digits or into single digits. And the Warriors ultimately lose that game by 15 points to head back to Chase Center in San Francisco for Game 6 with a 3-2 series lead. And Houston leads nearly wire to wire. The Warriors got within 2 after 3 quarters, and then Houston a 20-5 run to open up the fourth quarter, and they ultimately win Game 6 on Friday by 8 points at a score of 115-107. But it was not that close. Garbage time was heavily skewed in the Warriors' favor. When the Warriors subbed everybody out with a couple of minutes left, it was like a 15-point game. Houston dominated the fourth quarter. That performance extended this series to a Game 7, which is now coming up in a little more than an hour and a half right here on 95.7 The Game. Okay, so that is the quick little series recap. Now that we are in a Game 7, after it was a 3-1 series lead, what is on the line tonight and what might history tell us? First of all, tonight is the 12th Game 7 in Golden State Warriors history, and in their first 11, the Warriors are 6-5 in Game 7s. In the Curry era, the Warriors have played in 5 Game 7s. They've won 3 and they've lost 2. And oddly enough, file this under odd but true. This statistic is pretty crazy. In the 3 Game 7s the Warriors have won in the Steph Curry era, right? You go back as far as their first Game 7 was Round 1, 2014. That was the year before they won the first title. It was their second year in the postseason. That was Mark Jackson's last year as head coach, right? The final year before Steve Kerr. 2014 in LA versus the Clippers. That was the first Game 7 in the Steph Curry era. So beginning there and then going all the way through their most recent Game 7, which was 2 years ago in Sacramento in the first round, and then they'll add another one here today. In those 5 instances of Game 7s with Steph Curry as a Golden State Warrior, the Warriors are 3-2. But in the 3 Game 7s they've won, which is 2016 Western Conference Finals versus Oklahoma City, 2018 versus the same Houston Rockets, and it was on the road in Houston as well, and 2023 in Sacramento, the Warriors trailed at halftime. Down at half, in all 3 of those Game 7s, they've won with Steph Curry. What about the 2 Game 7s in which they've lost with Steph Curry? That's the one I was talking about earlier, 2014 versus the Clippers in LA. And, of course, the one that we all remember that comes to our mind immediately when we say a 3-1 series lead, NBA Finals 2016, Game 7 versus LeBron, Kyrie, and the Cavs when they came out and won that game down the stretch. Cleveland, though, trailed at half. The Warriors had the halftime lead in that game as well. So, odd but true, in the Steph Curry era, the Warriors have won 3 Game 7s. They have trailed at half in all of them. They have lost 2 Game 7s. They have led at half in both of them. Not necessarily saying the key to victory tonight is the Warriors trailing at halftime, but odd but true, when the Warriors have trailed at half in Game 7s with Steph, they win. When they have led at half in Game 7s, they have lost. Maybe the point here is if they're down by a handful of points, not time to freak out. But, of course, we'd all prefer the Warriors be up by 30 points at half and have this game over with. We shall see. I definitely would not mind a break of that trend where the Warriors lead at half and they ultimately go on to win the basketball game, but we will see. If you want a little more of a frightening number for you, 72% of home teams win Game 7s. And we saw it a little bit yesterday when the Clippers headed into Denver to take on the Nuggets in a Game 7. Clippers, the road team, versus the home team Nuggets. It was competitive for a quarter and a half-ish. Definitely was not over at half. But then Denver blitzed the Clippers in the third quarter. They led by nearly 40 at one point. They absolutely dominated that game in the second half. They ultimately win that one and continues the trend, which generally speaking, home teams very, very good in Game 7s. They win 72% of the time in Game 7s. Now, what about specifically 3-1 deficits? Houston is looking to become just the 14th team to come from down 3-1 in a series and win that series. NBA teams are 13 and 279. That's their series record, right? Series record 13 and 279 when down 3-1. Oddly enough, of those 13 instances where a team has come back from down 3-1, Houston has done it 2 of those 13 times, and if they do it again today with a win, they would become the only team in NBA history to have come back from 3 separate 3-1 series deficits. We shall see. Overall, when a team is trailing 3-1 and then they win Game 5 and they win Game 6, in Game 7, those teams that were down and then just won Game 5 and 6, in Game 7, those teams are 13 and 22. So in that regard, the odds, believe it or not, are still with the Warriors, at least the teams that had been in the Warriors' position historically. But it does shift a little bit when you consider the fact that the team that was trailing in the series is actually the home team. Because if we think about this enough, it's likely that the team that falls behind and is able to then come back is probably going to be like the favorite in a series. They just had a couple of stinkers early in the series, then they figure it out and they turn it on. But the difference here is that Houston is at home. Okay, so what's the record when teams that were down 3-1 win Game 5, win Game 6, and then are at home in Game 7? In that instance, those home teams, like the Rockets tonight, are 8-8. So a better overall record than just the general when down 3-1, you force a Game 7. How does that team do in Game 7? It is a little bit better if you are, of course, the home team versus the road team. But still, history says it's coin flip. If you fell behind 3-1, you force Game 7 and you're at home, those teams are 8-8. Although officially it's 9-8, but one of those series wins were the Nuggets over the Jazz in the bubble. The Nuggets were technically the home team, but that was played, of course, at a neutral site. So true home teams in Game 7s, when trailing 3-1 earlier in the series, are 8-8. This is a coin flip, and the odds say that as well. The Warriors are 2.5-point underdogs, and the over-under tonight is at 206. If you want a little bit of rough history for the Warriors, there have been multiple teams that have blown multiple 3-1 series deficits. The Warriors do not want to join this group, but they would with a loss today. The teams currently that have done it twice, the 76ers, the Suns, and the Clippers. Warriors would be the 4th team to join that list with a loss today. There is a little bit of history, though, waiting the Warriors if they do win. The Warriors are trying to become just the 7th 7 seed all time to beat the number 2 seed in a playoff series. And with a win today, they would do that. Plus, they would also become just the 3rd team to ever do it in a 7-game series, right? Earlier first rounds of series were best of 5, first to win 3. But when you have to win 4 games in a series, only 2 times has a 7 seed beat a 2 seed in a 7-game series. The Warriors are looking to become the 3rd to do it, and they would do that with a win today. All right, it's Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game. Again, Mark Randy with you, 888-957-9570. We got 45 more minutes together, and then I'll hand things off to Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert, who are awaiting this game in Houston as we get set for Game 7 between the Warriors and the Rockets. Let's get to our injury report, which is brought to you by Boxer & Gerson, Northern California's premier workers' compensation law firm, helping injured workers get their lives back for over 40 years. For more information, visit boxerlaw.com. It was a clean injury report for the Warriors earlier today, but a little bit of an update over the last couple of hours because the Warriors have a surprise name that has popped up. Gary Payton II is out with an illness. It's the 3rd straight game in Houston that the Warriors have had somebody out with an illness. You think back to Game 2 when Pods played, but he did not play well, and he was dealing with food poisoning. He was essentially out. 3rd straight game where the Warriors have had players really affected by at least what they're calling an illness on the injury report. Podziemski dealing with food poisoning, played, but not a lot, and did not play well at all. And then in Game 5, the most recent game in Houston, Jonathan Kuminga was out with a migraine. And now GP2 here in game number 7 will not play. Steve Kerr has spoken pregame, and he said this about GP2. This comes courtesy of our Warriors insider, Anthony Slater. Steve Kerr said Gary Payton II woke up sick, hasn't been able to eat, and, quote, no way he can play, end quote. He said the coaching staff is in the middle of discussing rotational impact and lineup combination options pregame. It'll be interesting to see how the Warriors do decide to adjust without GP2, because remember, he did start Game 6. The Warriors' adjustment in Game 6 was keep Buddy Hield starting for Moses Moody and then start GP2 for Brandon Podziemski. They thought GP2 on Fred VanVleet would help them out a lot. Fred VanVleet, though, he absolutely dominated in Game 6. He made 6 more threes on only 9 attempts, and he has been absolutely on fire from downtown in the second half of this series. He scored 29 points, also had 8 rebounds and 8 assists. If it wasn't for an otherworldly Steven Adams game, Fred VanVleet would have been the most impactful player on the floor in Game 6. He was awesome, and now we'll see how the Warriors adjust there, because their adjustment in Game 6, although it did not work well, he's out. They don't have that option. They don't have that card to play in this game here today. Seeing something come in on the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. The 415 is awfully worried about rebounding. Are you worried about the rebounds? Houston might kill on the glass. The Warriors were out-rebounded, though. It actually hasn't been that bad the last couple of games, if you believe it, 415. The Warriors out-rebounded the Rockets in Game 5. Now, that was kind of the throwaway game. They got dominated. The game was over at halftime, probably really before then, more like after the first quarter. So all the statistics in that game you can kind of just throw out the window. But even in Game 6, I mean, the rebound totals were 46 for Houston, 42 for the Warriors. Not terrible there, believe it or not. Now, I think those numbers are a little bit... I don't think it's totally accurate, the way that those numbers show up, because the Rockets had so many free throw attempts, and when you make your free throws, and Houston made 33 of them, a lot of them come on your second or your final free throw attempt of that trip, which takes away any opportunity at a rebound. For example, the Warriors put up 90 shots in Game 6. The Rockets only put up 78. So the Rockets had fewer opportunities on the offensive glass, and the Warriors also had fewer opportunities on the defensive glass. But I think those numbers are a little bit skewed. But honestly, the rebounding hasn't been terrible for the Warriors. In fact, they've been really good on the offensive glass. They have out-rebounded the Rockets on the offensive glass over the last handful of games, to the point where over the course of the entire series, the rebounding margin hasn't been absolutely terrible of late, specifically on the offensive glass. For how much the Rockets out-rebounded the Warriors early in this series, it hasn't been, again, as rough of late. Let's see. The offensive rebounds in this series, 80 for Houston, 70 for the Warriors. Over the course of 6 games, that's less than 2 offensive rebounds more per game. It has not been that bad. And other than Game 1 and 2, when Houston dominated the offensive glass and had a lot of second chance points, the Warriors have actually pretty consistently beaten the Rockets in second chance points. So I don't think the rebound battle is where I'm losing sleep over in this game. The Rockets will probably win the rebounding battle, but I think the Warriors have kind of built in to their thought process and their strategy in this series and in this game specifically that is going to happen. I identify a couple of areas, and it's really, really simple, where the Warriors have to beat the Rockets. And if they don't, they have very little chance of winning this game today. And we can get into some individual players later, and I know I will when I get to our Take It to the Bank prediction brought to you by Fremont Bank. I will highlight, I think, maybe one of the most important individuals for the Warriors other than Steph and Jimmy, and who I do see having a big impact in this game today, and someone who I can't see the Warriors winning unless they get that performance from that guy. We'll get into that coming up in a little bit. And again, I have you for a full hour, so stay tuned here. We'll take a break in about 7 minutes, but stay tuned because we got more coming up after the break. But in terms of like zoom out and focus on certain areas of the game as a whole, not individual players, The Rockets have won almost every single category in this series. They're shooting better from the field. They're shooting better from the three-point line. They're getting to the line a ton more than the Warriors. The Warriors have the edge in terms of free throw percentage, but the Rockets have made more free throws than the Warriors have even attempted, if you can believe it or not. The Rockets are 125 for 179 from the line. The Warriors are 87 for 113. So you got a pretty big edge in terms of the percentage, but the Rockets have made more free throws than the Warriors have even attempted, and the gap in terms of made free throws versus made free throws is 38. That's 38 more free points from the Rockets than the Warriors have. That is a big, big difference. The Rockets have also won the glass battle, although I don't think it has been as bad of late. The Warriors have committed a lot more personal fouls in this series as well, which goes hand in hand with those free throw numbers. The more personal fouls, the more free throws your opponents are going to get. The Rockets also have more blocks, and now, despite the series being even 3 games apiece, the Rockets have also just flatly outscored the Warriors in this series by 14 points over the course of 6 games. So how do the Warriors manage to win games? And this was the case even before the series flipped in the last 2, right? Warriors were up 3-1, 4 games in, and even then, these numbers were essentially all the same. So how did the Warriors build a 3-1 series lead? They did not turn the ball over, and they, got to the free throw line a lot, were limiting Houston free throws better, and they were making their free throws at a high clip. And frankly, we can say they got a little bit lucky with the number of free throws Houston missed. I don't think it's possible for the Warriors to win this game today if they don't win the turnover battle, and they might have to win it by a pretty big margin, which they're capable of doing, and they have to win the free throw battle. Those are the areas in which the Warriors have won in this series, and that has been the consistent through line in Warriors wins versus Warriors losses. Let's just go back to Game 6. Talked about the importance of turnovers. In Game 6, the Warriors committed 17 turnovers. Houston turned those 17 turns into 22 points off of turnovers. So 17 Warriors turnovers. Houston only 13 turnovers, and the Warriors on those 13 turns, 12 points off turnover. So Houston was +4 in the turnover battle and +10 in the points off turnover battle. And again, that game was decided by technically 8 points, but it wasn't quite that close. But that's a 10-point difference in points off of turnovers. 10 points right there. Now what about free throws? Again, as has been the story of the series overall, Houston shot worse from the line, but they got to the line so much more often in Game 6 that worst percentage did not really matter. Now, these numbers are a little bit weighted heavily because of the Hackett-Adams strategy. I think he got 10 free throw attempts. I think it was 12. The Warriors did it 6. That might have done it 8 times. It might have been 16 free throw attempts for Steven Adams. That's a big chunk of these numbers, but still, the point would hold even if the Hackett-Adams strategy did not happen. Houston in Game 6 got to the line 46 times. They made 33 of them, 72% from the stripe. Not a good percentage, but when you get there that many times, you make 33 of them compared to the Warriors going 18 for 22, which is a great percentage, 82%, but you gave up 15 points at the free throw line in that game. So if you're keeping score at home, a 10-point difference in favor of Houston on the turnover battle and a 15-point difference in favor of Houston from the free throw line. 25-point difference right there, and that is a little bit more than like the largest deficit for Houston in this game, which was 17. That was the difference in Game 6. Can the Warriors take care of the basketball? Can they turn Houston over on the other end? And can they do a couple of things? Get to the free throw line often, make their free throws, and defend Houston without fouling. That is the key, I think, for the Warriors in this game. That has been the through line throughout this entire series. Houston, if you just look at a box score, you look at the cumulative statistics for this series through 6 games, You would think Houston won this series in 5 or 6 games. You would think the series was already over, considering the number of categories that Houston isn't just winning, but is dominating. But the Warriors have the ability, and in their 3 wins, they've done this, to control the ball, which is maybe the most important category, and make their free throws at a very, very high clip. We will see if the Warriors can do those 2 things today. And I'll go out on a limb and say if they don't, they won't win this game. But if they do, they've got a real good chance to get it done. But you're going on the road in a hostile environment, going into an arena and going into a place filled with rabid Houston fans that would probably love nothing more than to beat the Warriors, considering everything the Warriors have done to this franchise and this fan base, including a Game 7 win in Houston in 2018, which led to a Warriors championship. You think those Rockets fans don't, haven't forgot that or haven't remembered that? Of course they have. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge. But the Warriors have to focus on the turnover battle and defending without fouling. They should be able to get to the line with Jimmy Butler, but you're going to have to keep the others for Houston off the free throw line, and you're going to have to take care of the ball. It is as simple as that. All right. Time for a break here on Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you. When we come back, I will get to my Take It to the Bank prediction. Plus, we'll check in on one score from around the NBA, and we got a whole lot more to dive into in terms of keys to this game. How do the Warriors win Game 7, and how can they avoid becoming the 4th team in NBA history to blow multiple 3-1 series lead in their franchise's history? We'll find out later on today, and I'll tell you how the Warriors can do that coming up next. It's Warriors Live on 95.7 The Game. I'm Mark Randy. Warriors Live presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. I'm back with more Warriors Live next on 95.7 The Game.
Pregame.
Welcome back. Mark Randy with you. We are inching closer to tip-off Game 7. Warriors and Rockets. Can the Warriors avoid becoming the 14th team in NBA history to blow a 3-1 series lead and from becoming the fourth team to do it multiple times? The 76ers, the Clippers, and who was the other team that has done it? I lost my notes here. I got like 5 pages of notes. Suns, 76ers, Clippers, and Suns have all already blown multiple 3-1 series lead in their franchise's history. The Warriors have done it once, and this would be the second time if they were to do it today. Really quickly, I want to address something that I've been seeing on our YouTube chat, which is powered by First NorCal Credit Union, and you can join the chat by visiting youtube.com/957thegame. There will be a separate live stream for our Warriors wrap-up show coming up post-game, and it's one of the best ways that you can consume all of our content here on 95.7 The Game by tuning into the live streams. I'm going to get back to all the keys to this game. I think we're going to see we have to see a lineup change, a starting lineup change, because GP2 started Game 6 and he is out. I will give you my prediction there. I will explain my reasoning, and I'll predict a couple of other changes that we see from the Warriors in this game today. Before I do that, though, let's get to our out-of-town NBA game of the night, which is sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. There's only one other game around the association today, and that's Pacers-Cavaliers. They're already in Game 1 of the second round right now in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, the Warriors and Rockets still slugging it out in Round 1. But that Game 1 is going on right now in Cleveland. Early action in the second half, and it is a lead for the Pacers. The 4 seed lead the 1 seed Cavs 80-68. 80-68. A 12-point lead for the Pacers, 7:17 to go in the third quarter there. I'll keep an eye on that score and I'll let you know what it is before I sign off here coming up in about 25 minutes. Obviously, you can't get to Cleveland for this game, but if you want to head out there for a future postseason game, you can use SFO to get there, or maybe you're planning a trip to Minnesota for the second round, but you just need the Warriors to come through tonight before pulling the trigger. If that's you, SFO can help you get there or anywhere else for postseason basketball, no questions asked. And that is our out-of-town NBA game of the night, sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. Okay, I want to address something that I saw in our YouTube chat, and I apologize. I don't remember exactly who it was from because I've seen it from a number of different people. But again, you can join the conversation, youtube.com/957thegame. Everything we do on YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. You can also hit me up on our text line, and that is the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line at 888-957-9570. I see a lot of Warrior fans worried about Draymond getting ejected from this basketball game. And there's no doubt tensions are going to be high. There's no doubt that Houston, I think, has an interest in trying to get under Draymond's skin, although I can say the same thing about the Warriors trying to do that to Dylan Brooks and to Alperen Şengün and Tari Eason, right, and all these other guys. I think it works both ways. Now, I'm not telling you this is a good thing. I'm not telling you this is a bad thing. I will just present this without comment and you can let me know how you feel about it. The officials tonight, Tony Brothers, James Williams, and Kevin Scott. Those three, that trio, has called 92 technical fouls this season. Let's compare it to the trio working the Cleveland and Indiana Game 1, which is going on right now in Cleveland. That trio has called only 47 technical fouls this season. 92 techs by this trio this season. And you take a look at James Williams specifically, who's not the crew chief tonight, but he is on the crew. James Williams has called 42 techs himself, which is by a mile the most techs any official has called in the NBA this year. So James Williams, he's got a short fuse. Very short fuse. 42 techs called by James Williams this season. The official with the second most techs has 33. So 42 techs is the most called by a single official. That goes to James Williams, and James Williams is a part of the crew today. I'm just putting that out there. I am just presenting that to you. Make whatever judgment you want, but this trio tends to be a pretty tech-heavy trio. Game 7s tend to be pretty emotional, and Warriors-Rockets already is emotional. So who knows what we're going to see. I'll just put it this way. I would bet a lot of money that we're going to see at least one tech in this game. We'll probably see a double technical at some point. I don't know if we'll see an ejection, but we're probably going to see a couple of technicals handed out because these are a couple of teams, and this is a kind of series that is chippy, and these are officials that have short fuses. So we shall see how that's all going to play out. All right. It's Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game, again presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. Let's get to not our take it to the bank prediction. I guess I could work this in with it. I'll do it. I'll do it all in one. How about that? I'll begin with our take it to the bank prediction, and then I'll get to my larger point. It's time for our take it to the bank prediction, brought to you by Fremont Bank, full service banking with no compromises. I'm going to go over 12.5 points for Brandon Podziemski in this game today. First, I think he's going to return to the starting lineup, and he may be looking at 35, maybe 40 minutes in this game today. I'll tack on another prediction here on our Take It to the Bank prediction brought to you by Fremont Bank. I think we're going to see the Warriors go back to their end-of-season normal starting five, which was Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, and Draymond Green. That starting group, when they started games, the Warriors were 19-4. That has not been the starting group since Game 2. Because in Game 3, Jimmy Butler did not play. In Game 4, the Warriors still went with Buddy Hield over Moses Moody. And in Game 5, they continued starting that as well, and it happened again in Game 6. So we haven't seen that starting group since Game 2. I think the Warriors will go back to it today, partly because GP2 is not available, but also because the GP2 experiment on Fred VanVleet failed horribly. And I think we've seen Moses Moody, the garbage time run that he had in Game 5, I think has given him his confidence back. His shot was a little more reliable in Game 6, although it was relatively limited, relatively small sample size. But I think that we're going to see the Warriors go back to that starting group, again, of Curry, Podziemski, Butler, Moody, and Draymond. So Podziemski in the starting lineup would be my guess. I do not know that for sure. If I do get an update over the next 18 minutes, I will let you know. But if not, Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert will let you know. But I would, again, officially predict that it's Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, and Draymond Green as the starters tonight for the Warriors. With that, specifically on Podziemski, I think he's going to play a lot of minutes. And I think the Warriors need to give as many minutes as possible to guys that do a couple of things. Number one, it's shoot the ball. Podziemski is not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but considering what their options are, he is one of their best. You might hate that I'm saying this. You might think that Podziemski's not a great shooter, and you might think every time Podziemski puts up a three, you're convinced it's going to miss. Whether you feel that way or not, I'm just telling you, based on the numbers, Podziemski is one of the Warriors' best shooters. I think flatly, he's got to be out there more. He has to play a lot of minutes. He's also a ball handler, and you could get Steph off the ball a little bit easier when Podziemski is on the floor. I also think the Warriors have to put out there as many guys in as many minutes as possible that do all of the little things, that find ways to come up with extra possessions, whether it's diving on the floor for a loose ball, boxing out and getting an offensive or a defensive rebound, whether it's drawing charges, all of those sorts of things. The Warriors need those in spades in this game today, and Podziemski is one of the Warriors players that very consistently does all that stuff, even when his shot is not falling. So I think we're going to see a lot of Brandon Podziemski, and I think the Warriors are going to need to see him score in order for them to win. So again, I will go over 12.5 points for Brandon Podziemski, and frankly, if that does not go over, I have a hard time finding a way for the Warriors to win this basketball game. You're probably going to need close to 60 combined from Steph and Jimmy, 55, 60-ish as the baseline for Steph and Jimmy. And then of the group of Podziemski and Moody and Hield and Draymond, like that group of four, you're going to need one of them at least to get you like 15 points. And I think the most likely is probably Brandon Podziemski. You could get a couple of them to do it, and then you feel really good about yourself. But I think I feel pretty good about Podziemski over 12.5, partly because I think he's just going to play so many dang minutes. And it's partly what the Warriors identified as what cost them in Game 6 and also really in Game 5. This is Draymond Green post-game in Game 6. Ask what the Warriors need to do to win Game 7. Here's Draymond.
Get loose balls. I think they probably had 20 points off broken plays and getting loose balls and kicking out for threes. So get loose balls and we'll defend them way better. Kind of getting the first effort. But in order to beat this team, you got to make second and third efforts. And the last 2 games, we have not done that.
He's absolutely right. And on the Warriors roster, who's the guy that consistently gives you those second and third efforts? I think one of, not that he's alone in this, but one of the people that do it is Brandon Podziemski. Who are some of the others that do that? I think this is where we will see the Warriors make another adjustment. I would not be shocked if we see at least one rotation stint in each half from Guy Santos. I think Guy Santos is a guy the Warriors put in there when Houston is going on a little bit of a run, when Steven Adams is controlling the glass, when the Warriors can't get defensive rebounds, when the Rockets are getting those 50-50 balls, you throw Guy Santos in there and you just say, hey, Guy, here's a 4-minute stretch. Here's maybe even a 2-minute stretch. Just go steal us a possession or two. And maybe they'll take advantage of those 2 extra possessions and they'll win the basketball game as a result. So I would not be shocked if we also see some Guy Santos minutes in this game at some point. Steve Kerr also has hinted that he might go to a little bit more Kevon Looney to try to combat that 2 big lineup that the Rockets have thrown out there, which has kind of turned this series around. I mean, you look at what Steven Adams has done, and the 2 big lineup is Şengün and Steven Adams. Really, it's a 3 big lineup because they also play Jabari Smith Jr. with that group, and they go like 6'10", 6'11", 6'11". But specifically, it's Şengün and Adams who have had the biggest impact. I'm not sure there is another Rocket who's had a bigger impact in this series than Steven Adams. Through 6 games, Steven Adams, when he's on the floor, the Rockets have outscored the Warriors by 53 points. When Steven Adams is off the floor, they've been outscored by 39 points. That is an amazing swing for just one guy over the course of 6 games, right? This is a big sample size. When Steven Adams is on the floor, the Rockets are 53 points better than the Warriors. When Steven Adams is on the bench, the Warriors are 39 points better than the Rockets. That's the key to the series. Can you neutralize Steven Adams today? The way you do it is by either finding a big or finding some lineup that neutralizes his presence on the glass and inside, or you play him off the floor. And I think Guy Santos is part of the key to playing him off the floor, but I also think it's going to fall on Draymond Green mostly, because Draymond Green is the guy that the Rockets have been hiding Steven Adams on defensively, and if Draymond Green cannot take advantage of all of the space Steven Adams is giving him, the Rockets will have no reason to take him off the court. So if I'm the Warriors, the key is Draymond Green on offense. What can you do to make the Rockets think twice about Steven Adams on the floor? And it's going to be difficult for you to take away what he does on the boards. But if you find a way to make the Rockets scared every time that he's matched up defensively on Draymond or whoever, they're going to have to take him off the floor. If you dominate him on that end, you're not going to have to deal with him on the other end. Or if the Rockets even stick to it, you know that the Steven Adams minutes are not going to be as big of a swing as they have been so far because you are taking advantage of him on the offensive end. The Warriors have to find a way to combat Steven Adams and go at him on the offensive end. We shall see. Now, one other thing, and I do want to get to some more sound from post-Game 6 because I think it is meaningful. One other thing that Steve Kerr has mentioned as a possibility is Jonathan Kuminga. He has said multiple times this series that Jonathan Kuminga is 100% on the table as a potential adjustment that the Warriors could make going forward. I thought heading into the series he had a spot in this series specifically to match up with the athleticism of Jalen Green. Jalen Green has not really hurt the Warriors the last couple of games, although he was a whole lot more under control in Game 6, partly because the Rockets just did not need him to score when they had Van Vliet go for 29 and when Steven Adams was dominating and you got the normal amount from Şengün. And I think Kuminga, when he played in Game 3 or in Game 4, it was Game 3, did a solid job defensively on Jalen Green, but I think the Warriors are so afraid of the way their offense looks, and this is partly why Steven Adams has been so successful, because the Warriors' spacing has just been so dang bad. They cannot get good looks, and they can't get in the paint, because there's very few players on the floor that the Rockets have to fear shooting the basketball. The Rockets are not guarding Draymond Green. They're not guarding GP2, and GP2 will not play today if you're just joining us out with an illness. So I think Kuminga has a role defensively. I'm just having a hard time coming up with the group where Jonathan Kuminga fits offensively because he's not going to space the floor, and that just would make it even more difficult for the Warriors to score inside. Now, can Kuminga attack Steven Adams and score on him? I don't think I've seen it consistently enough. I would not be shocked if things go poorly and we see the Warriors, call upon Jonathan Kuminga, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be a part of the immediate rotation for the Warriors in this game. I just don't think he spaces the floor quite well enough. And some of the other things that we were talking about in terms of the loose balls, the 50-50 balls, the rebounds, the things that Podziemski does, the things that Guy Santos does, I don't think Jonathan Kuminga has done those often enough either. You can live with the lack of spacing that Guy Santos provides, although he did hit a couple of threes in Game 2, if you remember, because of what he does on the other end. And the Guy Santos minutes that I'm talking about are maybe like 4 minutes total in this basketball game. But those could very well help decide this one. Let's go back to post-game 6. I mentioned, or I played Draymond Green talking about how the Warriors need to get to the loose balls to win Game 7. Here's more Draymond Green on that specific aspect and area of this game and how the Rockets have done a good job of it.
It can be due to whatever. The reality is the person who wants the ball more will get it, and right now it seems as if they want it more.
Yeah, no doubt. The Rockets the last couple of games have wanted the ball more. It's a big reason why they've won those last 2 basketball games. Are the Warriors going to want the ball more in Game 7? By the way, Jimmy Butler highlighted the same exact thing. Here's Jimmy Butler post-Game 6 on the 50-50 balls.
We gotta get these 50-50 balls. We gotta rebound better. That's been the story this entire series. They've gotten the loose balls and they've gotten way too many offensive rebounds.
All right, there's Jimmy Butler, and he's spot on as well. And one more Jimmy Butler. Why is that happening? Why is Houston getting all the loose balls?
I won't say that it's a lack of effort. It's just if you want to do it or not. That is the bottom line. If you want to rebound, if you want to dive on a loose floor, if you want to take a charge, all those little things is if you want to do it. It's really that simple.
All right, and that's why I think we're going to see a lot of Brandon Podziemski minutes, why I would not be surprised if we see some Guy Santos minutes, because the Warriors have to do all of those little things, right? I mentioned it earlier from the top. The Warriors have really just won a couple of categories this series. They're shooting a higher percentage from the free throw line, and they're turning the ball over less. Although that did not happen, at least the turnovers did not happen in game number 6. Warriors have to win the turnover battle, which is avoid turnovers, and sometimes you do that by when you commit a bad pass and it gets deflected, by diving on the ball and recovering it before the opponent officially controls it and turns it into a turnover, and diving on the floor on the other end and turning deflections into turnovers yourself. So I think that is maybe the single biggest category in this basketball game, and the other is get to the free throw line early and often, and then on the other end, defend without fouling. The Rockets got the Warriors in foul trouble very early in Game 5 when the game was over 12 minutes in, and then the Rockets in game number 6 back here at Chase Center a couple of days ago, the Rockets got to the line 46 times. Sometimes basketball is a simple game, and I think the 2 categories the Warriors have to win to have a chance tonight is the turnover battle, and it's the free throw line. You win both of those, you're going to have a really good chance to win this game. But if you don't, you're probably going to lose because Houston is probably going to out-rebound you. They have been out shooting you both from the field and from downtown, despite them being a much worse three-point shooting team on average this season. But they've been much better at that at late. And if you are losing those battles, you're going to have to win the possession battle, which is get more shots up and get to the free throw line more often. We will see if the Warriors can do that. I did want to share this with you before we move on. I've got like 5 more minutes left with you here on Warriors Live before I hand things off to Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert, who are standing by live in Houston. And by the way, after 3 quarters in Cleveland, game 1 of that second round series in the East, it is a narrow 2-point Pacer lead. The Pacers were up by as many as 12 last we looked. Cleveland went on a big run led by Donovan Mitchell, who has 27 points through 3 quarters. But a Miles Turner buzzer-beating 3 to close the third gives the Pacers a 2-point lead at 92-90 after 3 quarters. Looks like we've got a fun finish in Cleveland in game 1 of that Eastern second round series. But I did want to share this with you. This was Alperen Şengün earlier. I actually don't know if this was earlier today or yesterday, but at some point here before Game 7, it was in Houston, so it was post Game 6. It was either Saturday or today. Alperen Şengün, and this is a direct quote, I'm reading this verbatim. I don't think they, being the Warriors, I don't think they've beaten us this series. We beat ourselves, missing free throws and easy shots. When we're locked in, we're locked in. We have all the talent in the world. There's no reason for us to lose this game. That's a pretty strong statement for Alperen Şengün. Now, he's been really good so far this series. Şengün's averages this series, he's averaging 21 points per game. He is getting 11.5 rebounds per game and over 5 assists per game. He's playing really, really good basketball. He's probably been the most consistent player in this series through 6 games. And I don't necessarily think he's wrong in saying that they've beat ourselves with missed free throws and easy shots. That happened in Game 4 specifically when they missed 12 free throws in what was a game that came down to the final couple of possessions. They just shoot better from the free throw line. They probably win that basketball game. So Şengün, fair play. But also saying, I don't think they've beaten us this series, and then ending the quote with, there's no reason for us to lose this game, that's going a little far, and I guarantee you that quote ended up in the Warriors locker room, and they're probably thinking about that heading into this basketball game. The Warriors love nothing more than to shut up opposing teams, and we've heard some complaining off the court, right? Amen Thompson post Game 4 when there was some Draymond Green, Tari Eason stuff, and Draymond got the tech on the Steph Curry, Dylan Brooks situation and all that. Amen Thompson essentially saying, well, the officials are letting Draymond do everything. Like, you heard a little bit of that. You heard Alperen Şengün right here saying there's no reason that for us to lose this game. You haven't heard a ton of it. Most of the chippiness has been on the court, but I guarantee you that quote has made its way into the Warriors locker room. We will see how this one goes. I will say, Draymond Green, he does not seem worried or concerned about Game 7. Here he is post-game right after a really frustrating loss in Game 6, and he was already saying how much he was looking forward to playing in a Game 7.
It's a little frustrating. You get the opportunity to close out at home, want to do it. Nonetheless, it's a 7-game series. We know we can win there. Got to go get the win.
All right, there's Draymond Green on Game 7. We'll see. We're now a little bit more than a half hour away from tip-off of game number 1 of this series. All right, that's essentially going to do it for us here on Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you. I'll be back for post-game Warriors wrap-up once this game is over. Hopefully it is after a win, and we can also look ahead to Warriors and T-Wolves, which will begin on Tuesday. One thing that the Warriors have done, even if they lose, or even if they win this game today, by losing the previous 2 games, they have made round 2 a whole lot more difficult. Because, again, they packed their bags, the Warriors did, to go to Houston for a week. Not specifically to Houston, but on a trip for a week. Because if they win today, They're not coming back to the Bay. They will fly directly to Minnesota and gear up for Game 1 coming up on Tuesday. We shall see if the Warriors can get that one done. All right. This has been Warriors Live, presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. I'll be back for Warriors wrap-up once this one is over. Coming up on the other side is Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert live from Houston. They will take you up until tip-off, and they'll let you know about the Warriors starting lineups when we do have those. It is not out just yet, but again, I will predict they go back to that lineup that was 19-4 this season. Curry, Podziemski, Moody, Butler, and Draymond. That's my guess. We'll see if I'm right. I'll talk to you post-game here on 95.7 The Game. Game 7, Tim Roy, Tom Tolbert from Houston are next, and it's coming up right here on 95.7 The Game.